All right, we're here with VSIN, the one and only Gil Alexander, talking about Joe Burrow, talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and the injury, the season-ending injury to Joe Burrow's wrist. A lot of controversy, and I have to talk about this. A lot of controversy surrounding this, and this has been something that we've kind of battled for the last couple of years as bettors and as fans of sports, otherwise known as sports fans. So the injury report is a serious situation. The injury report that teams put out needs to be true. It needs to be legit. Teams shouldn't be allowed to play games with the injury report. The first time we saw this recently, and the first time we really started talking about this, was with Todd Gurley and the Rams. So Todd Gurley would be off of the injury report, but he would not be used during the games. And a lot of people believed they were keeping him off the injury report as like basically a decoy, basically so that the other team could prepare for him, but he was never going to play. He was hurt, and his production went way down. At the time, me and my betting group were just hammering Todd Gurley unders because he wasn't getting carries, even though he was on the report or off the report. He may get like a carry or two, one or two, not like, but he wouldn't get over 5 carries, right? And there's a couple different avenues with this, but with the NFL and how the NFL is now in bed with these gambling groups, DraftKings or whoever else in legalized betting, this kind of stuff is very dangerous to potentially hide how injured a player is. Because I understand that the team doesn't want, I understand. So the whole reason we're talking about this is because after Burrow got hurt, there was a video of him wearing a wrist brace throughout the week, but he was never on the injury report with any kind of wrist problems. So the conspiracy basically is that the Bengals didn't want to list him on there because they don't want the Ravens to know that he possibly is banged up on his wrist, or he's got maybe some structural issues or whatever. They're hoping he can just play through it. They can deal with it later. But that is really problematic whenever you have billions of dollars being bet. You have fantasy football as big as it is. The NFL made its bed whenever it started to promote fantasy football, gambling, or whatever else. Teams cannot do this. This is as bad. This is insider trading is what it is. Because if a company did this, if a company was like, man, let's hide our losses on our annual report because we don't want our competition to know we're bleeding. We don't want our competition to know that we are in the negative. That would be illegal, right? They would get sanctioned. There'd be heavy fines coming down. They would not be able to do that. The public would be being deceived. The stock, people purchasing stock and selling stock would be being lied to. Shouldn't be able to do that. You can't do that. And it's the same way with sports. Anyone who bet on Joe Burrow's overs or whatever else is absolutely played for a fool. Really, anyone who bet on the Bengals. I mean, but we're going to let Gil talk about it. And this is all right now conspiratorial. I mean, today is Friday morning, so Burrow is out for the season with a torn ligament in his wrist. We'll never know the truth of this. We'll never know how hurt he was coming into the game. We'll never know how much the Bengals knew. We know he for sure was wearing a brace. We have video of that. Amazon Prime, the feed gave us that video. So let's listen to Gil, and we'll break it down.
Burrow in severe pain after throwing the football on the touchdown. Right wrist injury. The Prime Video broadcast showed video of Burrow getting off the team bus with a brace or some kind of contraption around his right wrist and thumb. Burrow was not at all on the injury list all week. And the NFL now, Kelly, is investigating why that was the case.
Good.
Yeah, it is good, especially for those of us who bet on things. It's good.
Yes.
But if you're wondering, like, beyond the betting implications of this sort of thing, Zach Taylor, first of all, the coach of the Bengals, and this is a quote, he said he was not aware of Burrow dealing with any wrist issue prior to the game. There's other Bengals.
Do you believe that? It's hard for me to. I'm not going to lie. You hate to call the guy a liar, but it's hard for me to believe the head coach of the team didn't know their franchise $250 million guy was dealing with a wrist injury in arguably the biggest game of the season, before the biggest game of the season. Hard for me to imagine that they didn't have a conversation of like, how's your wrist? How you feeling? That Burrow just hit it the whole time, that Zach Taylor would not know that.
Teammates.
Now, let me say this. Taylor has absolutely no reason to come clean. He has absolutely no incentive to come out and say, yes, I knew, blah, 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 blah. So we will never know the truth of this.
Said the same thing. I thought it was good to go. The NFL, for just sort of thoroughness' sake, routinely looks into matters of compliance with its injury report policy. The league takes injury report violations seriously.
Yeah,
with punishments including team fines or potentially a lost draft pick. The NFL warned teams at the spring owners meetings that they are required to list all injuries.
Yeah, that's garbage. There is the picture that's been circulating. I saw it earlier in the week. I think it was from a local news camera out there that could see them getting off a bus with that rap too. And it was, when he's not on the injury report all week, you just don't really think of anything of it. And
he tried throwing on the sideline. He dropped
wasn't
into
happening.
A catcher's crouch in pain immediately.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I believe that all week he was absolutely fine.
I also don't believe that it's just a sprain. Like, I don't know.
Well, now, like I said, it's come out now that it's a torn ligament. So, like, think about how bad of a situation this is. Like, you got the betting implications. You've got just the integrity of competition between the Ravens and the Bengals. But then you also have Joe Burrow as a player. You also have an ethical, like how a team treats their players. Joe Burrow is wearing a brace or whatever. I don't know the medical device. I'm not a medical professional. He's wearing something on his wrist. He tears, whether he tears it in the game or whether it's already torn, whatever, in excruciating pain, has to have surgery now to repair a torn ligament, out for the season. Is it fair to Joe Burrow that he had to play? Is it fair? I mean, I don't want to say, like, he may have wanted to play. He may have wanted to. He may be complicit and all that. I have no idea. But this is just a big time failure in every single way from the Cincinnati Bengals. And I want to make this clear. We cover sports betting a lot here. We talk about the odds. We talk about Vegas. That is a huge part of how we look at sports. No doubt about it. I had a Super Bowl ticket on the Bengals. Well documented. Made a whole video about it. They were my pick to win the Super Bowl. A couple weeks into the season, thought they had value. Whatever. This is not full just because of the gambling side of things. This is top to bottom. This is a failure from the NFL and a failure from the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's just take it from the ethical integrity side of things from competition. The Ravens should know who is injured and who is not injured. The Bengals should know on the Ravens who is injured and who is not injured. That's why they have injury reports. Every sport should be like that. You shouldn't be able to say, just vice versa. You shouldn't be able to say, if you're playing the Warriors, Steph Curry is sick. Steph Curry's hurt. Steph Curry has a sprained knee. And then he shows up and he's 100% fine, no sprain, no issues, not sick at all. Even that, like, if you flip it, you shouldn't be able to over-exaggerate how injured players are. You shouldn't be able to take players off, that should be on, and vice versa. It is the most basic concept in sports, I think, is each team should know who's available, know who's hurt, know who is not available, and vice versa. That's why we have that. That's why we have questionable, doubtful, game time decision, out, whatever else. It's despicable.
Oh, well, we'll find out. MRI scheduled for Joe Burrow. So obviously he did not return to the game. It was Jake Browning thereafter in what was just what's the opposite of riveting second half? Just absolutely. The second half just became this sort of joke of punts traded and field goals traded. But Baltimore, by the way, just to conclude, Baltimore did break it open finally with their last touchdown to make it 34-13. On a drive where Lamar went to OBJ, who looked great last night.
If we do talk about the betting side of things, think about if an insider of the team, like a medical personnel, for the Bengals, knows Burrow's hurt. If you have that information, again, with the amount of money wagered on sports, it is insider trading. If you got that information, Joe Burrow is banged up. He's got an injury on his throwing wrist. you're putting everything you own on the Ravens. And you're putting everything you own on Joe Burrow unders, under passing yards, under completions, under attempts, whatever else. I mean, it's really unbelievable that it's still happening at this point, with how much of the focus is on sports, how many camera angles we have, how many beat writers we have, how many reporters we have, how many people we have betting on these games, how many people have fantasy football teams, like all that stuff. It's wild that teams are still doing this, that teams are still messing with the injury report.
Right. And Odell Beckham Jr., by the way, 51-yard play, but he got up holding his shoulder. Who was on the tackle this time? Not a hip drop, but Logan Wilson was on it. Logan Wilson was responsible for 3 Ravens injuries last night, if you consider Lamar one of the injuries as well. Gus went in for 4, 34-13, and then the Bengals did get a garbage touchdown. The betting thing last night. No, well, you finish your thought before.
I was just going to say, like, JVT and I were talking about this a bit like last week when it came to the NBA, and it's, we all said and thought as bettors, a couple years ago that when these leagues were getting more involved with the sports gambling companies, that there was a chance that or a good chance that we were going to see more transparent injury.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
That's not been the case.
It's been the opposite.
It's just not at all been the case.
And for a league that screams integrity, right, and screamed, for those of us in this corner of the universe, right, who got, from the betting standpoint, who got screamed the word integrity down our throats, right, that gambling was the real threat to the NFL. All of this stuff is, you throw it in the mix. It's all such hypocrisy on this.
Yeah, it's bad.
But Baltimore now has led. We said this yesterday that it was 28 minutes that they.
I mean, it's ugly. It really is ugly. Like Gil's right. We kept hearing like professionalized sports betting or legalized sports betting would hurt the integrity of the NFL. This is what hurts the integrity of the NFL is when teams or whoever messes with the injury report. It's disgusting. I mean, I think the Bengals should be investigated. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and say I know for sure or no doubt about it they did whatever. They should be investigated. And if it is proven that they did know that Burrow was hurt and they knew that his wrist was hurt and they did not put him on the injury report, I think they should lose a draft pick. I think any team that does this, any team that, whether it's Todd Gurley not being on the list but his hip is shot or whatever, it's just the league is too big to have these kind of smoke and mirrors and these kind of horrible transparency when it comes to these teams. I mean, it's just, I hate to see what happened to Burrow. I hate to see, all the gamblers out there take a hit. It's bad for books. It's bad for sports books. It's bad for everybody. I mean, it's not, there's no one wins here. No one wins here with this kind of ethics or these kind of practices by whoever is the faulty party, So it's just something. Hopefully we get it fixed. Hopefully we get the injury reports and we get some of the stuff ironed out moving forward. And hopefully this is something that we do away with. It ruined the game. It puts a horrible light on Bengals Ravens. It really does. But I just wanted to talk about this because I know it's a hot topic and we talked about the Bengals a lot and we talked about sports betting a lot. So thanks for Gil and his show for covering it a little bit there. Live from the D in downtown Las Vegas at Bar Canada, it looks like. If you're ever out in Vegas, go to Circa, go to the D. Amazing properties, my favorite place in Vegas for sure. Let me know in the comments below where you come down on this. Do you think the Bengals should be investigated? Do you think they did anything wrong? Do you think the injury report should be legit? Do you understand the importance of this? Were you burned last night betting-wise or fantasy or whatever? Let me know in the comments below. Sound off. I will see you in the next video.